All right.
Ready?
Yes.
Alright. How many of you watched The Daily Show or The Colbert Report? Raise your hand high. And wave it around. Alrighty. My claim is a claim of fact today. And Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert are journalists. And the argument in the media right now is that they're just entertainers. They weren't trained to be journalists. They didn't go to journalism school. But I'm going to try and persuade you today to believe that they are journalists, because if you, well, we'll get on with that later. So my points today are, first we're going to talk about why Jon Stewart is already viewed as a journalist to younger viewers. And secondly, Stephen Colbert offers up the information on politics that oftentimes we don't have access to, and I'm going to give you an example of that. And finally, Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert have plowed the way for a new age of honest journalism, and I'm going to explain that to you as well. Alright. So Jon Stewart is more adept at reaching young audiences, unlike traditional news outlets that are often biased and only reach one audience. So his audience tends to be from 30 and below, and CNN, MSNBC, Fox News tend to be a little bit older crowd, and they tend to be a little more biased, whereas Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert are considered not to be as biased, or biased in a different way. Alright, so in a poll conducted by the Pew Research Center for the People in the Press, those under the age of 30 found Stewart one of the top journalists on television. In the rankings of most admired news figures, Jon Stewart ranked 8th. Katie Couric ranked number 1. Why is Stewart so admired as a journalist? Well, he's seen as the 8th ranked most admired news figure in a poll by younger viewers. So that's got to mean something. If everybody thinks that you're something, and you're 8th, and Katie Couric is number 1, numbers speak for themselves. Okay, so according to a study conducted by the Pew Research Center's Project for Excellence in Journalism, found on Current.com, The Daily Show was studied for all of 2007 in an effort to figure out why Stewart is so admired as a journalist. Even though Stewart himself says he is not one, Stewart uses a lot of news footage from the day's events to show contrast and contradiction, just like the other news programs. And he picks selectively among major events, just like the other news programs, and ignores a lot of what happens during the day, just like the other news programs. The Pew analysis concludes, in its choice of topics, its use of news footage to deconstruct the manipulations by public figures, and its tendency toward pointed satire over playing just for laughs. The Daily Show performs a function that is close to journalistic in nature, getting people to think critically about the public square. Alright, so Jon Stewart has a unique opportunity to be an outsider, since he's not a journalist. It doesn't say anywhere on his, when he graduated from college, it doesn't say anywhere, he has no degree in journalism, he didn't go to journalism school, so he has this unique opportunity to say on the side of his mouth that he's not a journalist, but also portray one, and say what we're all thinking, pretty much. So he has the unique opportunity to be an outsider, looking in on mainstream media. He's able to poke fun at the media and ask guests the questions that mainstream media aren't allowed to. Mainstream media is censored. They are not allowed to ask certain questions. It will lose favor with viewers, offend them, and offend the political views of their corporate ringmasters. Stewart's show is run like a mom-and-pop store. They have held tight to the last remaining kernel of true journalism, whereas the mainstream media has covered it with a scrolling ticker and a flashy graphic. Maybe they deserve to have it thrown in their face by Stewart. His show can use the flashy graphics just as well, and they have Max too. Journalism is about the truth, accountability, and independence from bias, all of the attributes Jon Stewart possesses. Now, Stephen Colbert originated from The Daily Show and spun off his own show, The Colbert Report, which is a satirical version of the O'Reilly Factor, in case you didn't know. His show asks politicians the tough questions, Democrats and Republicans alike. In fact, by appearing on the show, campaign donations increased. In a straight-faced new study, James Fowler, an associate professor of political science at the University of California, San Diego, has conducted the first analysis of the political consequences of a candidate's appearance on the Colbert Report. And he finds that Democratic candidates who dare to go on the show, in particular, experience a huge bump in campaign contributions after the broadcast, no matter how silly Colbert makes them look. The reason for this is because Colbert asks the questions that people want to know the answers to. In a segment called Better Know a District, Colbert features otherwise unknown congressional representatives and asks them questions and challenges their views. Being a guest on the show can either help you by giving you a national audience, or it can cripple you if you fumble or appear uneasy. In an interview with Georgia's 8th District Representative, he has the worst name ever, and it's hard to pronounce, Lynn Westmoreland. He was interviewed regarding his push for a bill requiring the display of the Ten Commandments in the House of Representatives and Senate. Okay, so in this interview, he's sitting down with him, just like, like Barbara Walters, Katie Couric situation, and he asked him why he wants to put the Ten Commandments in the House of Representatives and the Senate. And, he jokes around with him and stuff. And he says, he asked him what the Ten Commandments are. And he can only name 3. And he wants them posted in the House of Representatives and the Senate. So this was an infamous interview, and it caused a lot of uproar in the 8th District of Georgia. And these are the tough questions that we expect journalism to ask. If you don't know the Ten Commandments, you can only name 3, then you can't go around saying that you want them posted everywhere, unless you need that to remember them. Then you should post them in your office or something. Okay, these are the tough questions we expect journalism to ask. We want the truth and accountability. This is what journalism is about. This is what Stephen Colbert has done. Studies have shown that those who watch Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart show know more about current events than other real news programs hosted by Lou Dobbs, Bill O'Reilly, and Larry King. They also knew more than those who watch ABC, NBC, Fox News, CNN, C-SPAN, as well as newspapers. According to the study, the national average for answering the 3 questions is only 18%, but 34% of the Colbert Report fans got them right, with 30% of the Daily Show viewers doing so, even though the 2 Comedy Central shows draw younger audiences, which generally scored less well on the test than other viewers. Now, some argue that Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert aren't journalists. Rather, they are merely entertainers. However, through the guise of entertaining, Stewart and Colbert have managed to reach the young and inform its viewers of the truth. Journalism is about the truth and accountability. Stewart and Colbert emphasize this. They are not restrained by the red tape of corporate mainstream media. They don't care about repercussions. They revel in them. They do what we want the media to do: unearth truth, point out blunders, and navigate the maze of political jargon we find ourselves buried in every time we turn on CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. Like the saying goes, if it walks like a journalist, talks like a journalist, it is a journalist.
So Annie, we were going to have you do the evaluation, right? Okay.
I thought it was really good. I agree with you. Your structure was good. I knew where you were going and where we were, what we were talking about. Your examples were really good. Overall, I really liked it. I agree.
All right, it's pretty well organized. You set up a criteria that explains what makes something factual in nature, and I thought that you did a good job at that. I do think that you need to cite some of the information that you're presenting a little bit more effectively. You've got examples that you point to. You make vague references to studies that reach a particular conclusion, and I don't think that that information is being cited very effectively in the speech. The presentation is okay. You are way too script dependent, doing way too much reading. Lynn Westmoreland, if that's the hardest name that you encounter.
It's hard to say,
Well, I know that there's a cadence to it. If you're in the wrong sentence, it's going to be a little awkward. But as far as pronunciation, my goodness, that's a lot easier than some of those names. And I guess it would be fun to say. I'm sure that would be a Colbert or a Stewart joke if the name was really difficult. They could make some reference to the complicated nature of the pronunciation of their name. Like I said, I think toward the end, you did a better job in making your argument than you had at the beginning, and that's a good place to be following through on, but I think it would be stronger if you gave the source citations. A lot of it sounds like an interesting essay, but I'm not sure that it's a compelling speech. But I like the idea that we're looking for non-traditional ways of getting information, and that people who get their information this way, that they are well informed. I think that's a good criteria to establish for your argument. I just think it needs to be, proven a little more. All right, thank you.